Hi everyone, welcome. Last week of class, it went by fast. I know there was a lot to work to do, but I know a lot of you did that work well and made a lot of good contributions to this class. I apologize if there wasn't a video last week. I had issues with YouTube. It wanted me to spend a week uploading a 6-minute video, and I was not able to fix that. So I'm hoping this week goes a little better. So you'll see there's a lot here, so I kind of want to take it in pieces. The first thing I want to start with is your Week 7 discussion. So as you're doing this discussion, I want you to read, I have two documents from the Civil War. Both of them are written by Abraham Lincoln. One is a letter to Horace Greeley, and the other is Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address. And as you read these, I want you to be paying attention to the language that Lincoln uses. So if you look at these documents here, the first is the letter to Horace Greeley. And here is the really main important paragraph. And notice the word union, 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 all throughout this. Union, union, union. So as you're thinking about your discussion this week, I want you to think about this word union and why Lincoln is saying union over and over and over again in just this one paragraph to Horace Greeley. What are Lincoln's thoughts in August of 1862 when it comes to the Civil War? Then look a year later, November of 1863. As you read this, you'll notice that the word union is not here once. So my question to you is, what word has replaced union? Now, what is Lincoln pushing for? So as you read these two documents, you think about Lincoln's thoughts. Also try to think about what has changed between 1862 and 1863. It might be behind Lincoln's now changes in those, in his use of language and his use of terms. This week I'd like you to watch these five lectures from Dr. Blight's class. I picked out the ones that I thought were the best. I think you'll really enjoy these. The first two deal with basically the coming of the Civil War, and the last three deal with the Civil War in general. So you'll get a lot about the battles, you'll get a lot about Lincoln's leadership, and you'll get the aftermath of the Civil War. So please pay close attention to those lectures. This week, your second writing assignment is due. It's the final of the two writing assignments. And I asked you to look at this last week, so you should have a sense here of what I'm looking for. But I want you to write me a 1,200-word essay that answers this question. How did Southern slaveholders justify slavery and slaveholding in the 19th century? And so you're going to want to look at that document by George Fitzhugh. You want to look at the reading by James Henry Hammond, in which he argues why slaveholding should be allowed. You think about some of the readings that we've done out of the Foner book, but also from week 6, David Blight's lecture gives some background on how Southern slaveholders came up with ideas of how to justify slavery and slaveholding, to the point where many of them developed this paternalist ethos in which they actually thought they were doing the slaves a favor. And so if you're going to use that point, explain to me why they thought they were doing sort of a service to African Americans by enslaving them. So please use your 800 number at the top of the paper. Your paper should be 1,200 words in length. The last writing assignment, about 2 or 3 people, their writing assignments were pretty short. Please try to hit that 1,200 word length guideline. With your writing assignments, you are free to go to the writing center, or if you're distance from campus, use the online function. You can contact the writing center online and make an appointment with them. Have them proofread your paper. After they proofread your paper, ask them to email me with your name, and I will add 5 points to your paper. They do this quite frequently for me, so they know what I ask, that it won't seem weird to them that I'm asking you to email me with your name. So make sure that paper is due and submitted. It is due Friday, May 11th. I will not be extending the deadline on this. This is a hard deadline, Friday, May 11th by 11:59 at night. And here is the rubric for that. So please make sure that after having written your paper that you look at that rubric to make sure that you get the highest possible grade. So you'll do discussion 7. There will be a quiz, and that will open Wednesday at noon. And the last thing is I've asked you to sort of preview the final exam. So the final exam is due Thursday, May 17th at 5. Again, that's going to be a hard deadline. There will be no extensions provided on that deadline. So please make sure that you have your exam ready to go then. If you remember back to about week 3, week 4 of our class, we talked about George Washington's presidency. In 1796, when George Washington decides not to seek a third term as president and basically retire from public life, he writes what's known as the Farewell Address in collaboration with Alexander Hamilton. And he has a lot to talk about in his farewell address. But two of the main points is that he does not think that Americans should create political parties and join political parties. And he also doesn't think that Americans should get themselves overly involved in foreign affairs. And so, what I would like you to do is write me a 1,300-word essay in which you answer this question. And so, the question is, should the United States of America, between these two time periods, these two dates, have paid greater attention to George Washington's advice about foreign affairs? So essentially what I want you to do is, step 1, answer the question. Yes, I think that the United States should have paid greater attention to Washington's advice, and here are 4 reasons why I think that. Or 2, I do not think the United States should have listened to Washington's advice, and here are 4 reasons why I think that. So you should have basically when you look at your 4 examples, you should try to think of one thing that connects them. What is the one thing that you can kind of look to them and say, okay, they all have this in common? And that's kind of how I want you to develop your thesis statement. That if it hadn't been for these 4 examples, this would not have happened this way. Or perhaps if it had been for these 4 examples, something would not have transpired. 2 things that I do not want you to do. I don't want you to just list out facts. I really want there to be something that connects these facts together to support your thesis statement. The second thing I don't want you to do is to say, well, if the United States had never purchased the Louisiana Territory from France, something would never have happened. Or if the United States hadn't had immigration in the 1800s, we never would have had World War I. So don't do any foreshadowing, and don't do these things like, if America hadn't done this, then it wouldn't have been the great nation it is today. I believe America is a great nation, and probably most of you agree that too, but you can't measure that, and so it's hard to make that argument in an essay. So try to stay away from that cliche. And this event led to America becoming the greatest nation in the world. We can't measure that. We can't say, okay, America's great because it did this, but England's not because it doesn't do this, right? So try to make your paper completely fact-based. Make your statement, make your thesis statement, and then argue it with examples. I've put a list of examples here. It doesn't mean you have to pick from this list, but just to kind of get the gears turning in your head, I thought it would be good to have some examples for you. If you want to pick all 4 of your examples from this list, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you. As you're writing this, I want you to not consider Native Americans as foreign governments. You can consider how the United States treated them as a potential benefit or consequence, but do not use the Native Americans as a foreign nation. Think more of the nations of Europe, the nations of Asia, the nations of Africa that are related to here. So like all your papers, please use your 800 number, not your name. I like these to be anonymous as I'm grading them. These should be 1,300 words in length. Only focus on these dates. You should not be talking about events that happened before 1789, and you should not be talking about events that happened after 1865. Please make sure that all of your citations are cited. All your information has a citation. All quotations should have a citation. If it's a primary source reading and there's no author, just use the primary source's name. Otherwise, just put the author's name in parentheses. You may not use any outside sources. Do not use any websites. Do not use any outside books or articles. You may use any of the lectures that I assign. You may use any of the readings that I assign, but you may not use anything from the internet, anything from the library. I want this to be just on the course materials. You'll submit your paper on Venko Hall. Again, I have the rubric here. You cannot do the extra credit assignment by going to the Writing Center, but you can actually go to the Writing Center. I would encourage you to go to the Writing Center and have them work on this paper with you. I just won't be giving you the 5 extra credit points because this is a test, an essay exam. So if you have any questions, please email me. I look forward to seeing what you come up with this week and for your final exam, and I look forward to seeing your post online. Have a good week.